138 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis,
Here comes Mr. Pro. Mr.
Andre the
Pro
Giant.
gonna get his licks in on the bruiser. Hulk Hogan.
Number one, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
His opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.
Welcome into the Retro Wrestling Rewind, episode number 60. Yeah, that's right, folks. The FCC, which thank God they do not patrol the podcast world. We have made it to number 60. Can you fucking believe that? The great Alex G up there in the great Long Island.
No, I can't. I'm surprised I'm not in prison again. I'm surprised the FBI is not listening. They probably should.
Whatever you do, if you go over to somebody's house and you see that guy from MSNBC, I forgot again, To Catch a Predator, just walk out. I mean, I think I did see you on one of those episodes, or it could have been your brother. I'm not.
Wait, I'm not related to Rob Feinstein, so.
Well, I mean, hey, you know, but I mean, okay, so we've had 60. This is episode 60. You've always had great picks in the shows that I actually let you pick, but this one, Hulkamania 4, was a Coliseum video exclusive. It was, to be honest with you, really hard to watch. It was
that's because you're not a Hulkamaniac, first and foremost.
No, I'm not.
You know, this is 1989 Hulkamania running wild, and I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not a dickhead. I was a Hulkamaniac as a kid. All right, we haven't seen a bunch of Hulk Hogan matches on Superstars. You're lucky if you got him on Saturday's Main Event, which he was on quite a bit. You would never see him on Challenge. You would never see him on All American. You see promos every once in a while. But this is the only time that you really got a whole bunch of Hulk Hogan matches, you know, on a tape. That's fucking phenomenal. And, you know, this is number 4. I think they would go up to, the last one was Hulkamania Forever, which probably would be number 6.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Hulk Hogan, I mean, I know you don't really watch the current product, and, you know.
No, why would I do that?
Because I know it makes you mad. But Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair over in Saudi Arabia, a week from Thursday. I mean, Hulk Hogan, I mean, this guy's never going to give it up. I mean, he's not wrestling.
No, why?
He's getting paid to go. It's just, I mean, they'll probably make another Hulk Hogan. I mean, they made 6 of these things. I mean, were the ones after this was terrible. I mean, it was just terrible. I mean, I love Hulk Hogan. He's a great wrestler. He's done a lot for wrestling. People know who Hulk Hogan is, even if they're not professional wrestling fans. But, I mean, come on. Okay, so we start out this. See, folks, of course, I did not have access to this exclusive Coliseum Home video because it's not on the network. You know, the show's not on the network.
No, because Hulk Hogan's apparently a racist. Well, I guess not apparently. We saw it on tape. So I guess they took down all, like, the Hulkamania stuff. And now that he's back, I'm assuming these videos will either go up or go back up. I know they took down Rock and Wrestling, Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling. Which I like that cartoon. That cartoon was dope as fuck on CBS, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great. I love that cartoon. I mean, it had Hillbilly Jim, had Iron Sheik, it had Freddie Blassie. It was a great. I mean, it wasn't as good as that crap that Camp WWE. That's kind of funny, but yeah, I mean, the first thing, you know, I couldn't find this on the network. I couldn't find the whole thing on YouTube, but of course you illegally sent it over to me. So. Thank you very much.
First of all, I illegally sent it to you because I actually own this DVD.
Oh,
now,
you do?
I have the tape. It's in my garage. This is a VHS rip, I guess you would call it. So I actually own this tape. I own actually a lot of tape. So sometimes I exaggerate that I'm a pirate of wrestling footage, which is, I guess, is true to a certain degree. But I do have a fucking garage full of fucking tapes.
Yeah,
my wife often tells me to throw away.
It's amazing that you have a wife. I mean, you have all this memorabilia. You have like 9,000 gaming systems. You play video games like you're.
I'll tell you,
like you're 10.
We're hanging by a fucking thread. Let me tell you, that's for sure.
Wow, hey, if anything goes south, please do not come south to Atlanta, Georgia, because we do have an extra room, but it's. I'm sorry, you're not welcome in our. No, you're welcome in our house anytime. If
I'm going to Missy Hyatt's house. I don't know about
well, I mean,
what you're talking about.
yeah, I mean, she lives in Florida and she likes to recreate like war battle scenes. You know, she's a Revolutionary War
She like
buff.
it's Civil War.
One of those wars, one of those wars that the South did not win. You know, I mean, I think we lost everyone. But you know, when I pushed play on this, when I was on my break at the old shoot job, I saw the Rockers anti-smoking commercial. I mean, what were your thoughts on having an anti-smoking commercial on a Coliseum? I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean,
it is very weird, but fucking Vince is very much anti-smoking in general, so I'm not necessarily surprised. This one is not so bad. The Ultimate Warrior one, the anti-smoking Ultimate Warrior one, is really, really insane. I believe if you look at the Coliseum Home video of Royal Rumble '89, it's on that one.
I mean, that guy's crazy. You know, what's crazy as it is. I mean, I think if he told me to stop smoking, I would do that. But I mean, it was weird. And then the next commercial, they had two commercials on here. They had one for Slim Jim. It was the Ultimate Warrior who was the spokesman for Slim Jim, I guess, before Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, who are you? I know this is kind of a weird question, but who was a better spokesperson for Slim Jim, Macho or the Ultimate Warrior?
Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yes.
No. Diesel.
Yes. Fake Diesel or real Diesel?
It was real Diesel. No, it was definitely Savage. I mean, that's just iconic. And, you know, eventually after the contract for Slim Jim was up in the WWF, you know, Savage was able to bring it to WCW. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of weird seeing that. I mean, but, you know, I kind of fast forwarded through this, but I wrote it down in my notes anyway. The first match, well, it was a highlight of the Iron Sheik Hulk Hogan match when Hogan won a championship for the first time. I mean, that was I love that match. I mean, it goes down in history as a really good match. I mean, Hogan winning his first title. I mean, what were your thoughts on that match? I mean, we didn't see the complete match on this on the Coliseum videos.
Well, obviously, everyone in the entire world have seen the complete match of this. That's first and foremost. Yeah. And, you know, not for nothing, if we look at, you know, these tapes in general, and we start back at one and go all the way through, you do see the progression of Hulk Hogan's career. And very early on, especially in this title match with Iron Sheik, you know, Hulk Hogan at the time was a very edgy character. You know, he jumpstarts the match. He chokes out fucking Iron Sheik. So he's a very, very edgy character at first to start. So he was basically a babyface with heel tendencies. And he was the type of wrestler who would give it back to the heels. You know, he would kind of fight fire with fire. And that's why people gravitated to Hulk. Eventually, that character will evolve over time to be kind of a douche by the time we get to the Orndorff feud. But you know, the early Hulk Hogan stuff is always fantastic. And that belt that he has, the big green belt as they call it, that's the only replica belt that I own because I love that belt so much.
Okay, so not for nothing, as you would say. I mean, when I go to a show, I see these marks with their fucking. It looks like really expensive, legitimate looking belts. So you're one of those people that walks around the shows with a belt on?
Absolutely not. Mine is in a nice glass display case. Now, you know, I'm not going to sit here and tell people what to do with their money, right? But those belts are very expensive, and you know they're pretty heavy too. And you know, when I go to shows, and I go to quite a few, I don't want to be carrying around and lugging around this fucking title belt that I'm going to scratch up because they're very delicate. They scratch very easily. The leather scratches very easily. The zinc plated, they scratch very easily. And you're kind of ruining your, you know, $500 to $700 belt when you take them to these shows like this. They're not in bags. You're just walking around and you're not doing any kind of interesting cosplay. Like if you're cosplaying as Bret Hart, that would be one thing, but if you're going to just sit there and just be, you know, wearing a black T-shirt and jeans, carrying around a belt, that's a little ridiculous to me. But again, that being said, you know, to each their own. Like it's, you know, if that's what you want to do, if that makes me happy, man, that's cool. But I am going to quietly judge you.
Yeah, I mean, I had this thought when the last pay-per-view TV show that we went to here in Atlanta. My buddy, who's also a wrestling fan,
you don't have any friends.
Yeah, I don't have any friends. I'm married. He was like, "Hey, David Fine, Is it me, or do these jabronis need to defend the, if there's a person with a belt walking at an event, they need to defend that title. That would be kind of funny. It's kind of like the 24/7 belt. You wear it around. I mean, it's just like, come on, you're going to carry the belts. You should maybe defend it. It's just, I don't want to, I don't get people, grown ass men or women, walking around with these belts. Kids, yeah, I mean, because, you know, they're.
I had one. I had a set of 3. So I had the WWF Championship belt, the foam one. I had an icy one, and it was brown for some reason. It looked stupid, but I had it. And then I had the tag team belts. They were foam, and you bought them from the WWE catalog, or you bought them at the live event that you went to. But I had all 3, and I used to defend my championship against my wrestling buddies, which was awesome.
Well, I'm definitely not going to judge.
I used to bring my wrestling buddies into the pool, and it would give them weight because obviously the water would fucking soak it all in.
Yeah.
So they would be heavy as shit, and I'd be able to do like more interesting maneuvers with them.
I won't judge you, and I'm hoping this is when you were a wee young lad. Not
I was
last
9
week.
years old.
Okay, good. That is awesome. You know, moving on to the first match that we actually saw, Hulk Hogan versus
With Elizabeth.
Yes, versus Bad News Brown. This was from Saturday night's main event. I'm a big Bad News fan. I mean, this guy, he had a great look. He looked like he could legitimately beat the shit out of anybody in a shoot street fight. I mean, what are your thoughts on Bad News? I mean,
You know what the cool thing about this tape is? Because at the time, pay-per-views were so spread out that we'll miss feuds that happen in between. And at the time, right before WrestleMania 5, Randy Savage is feuding with Bad News Brown. Now, Bad News Brown goes on the set of the Love Show and accuses Elizabeth of doing favors for President Jack Tunney. Now, as a little kid, I didn't understand what that meant. I'm like, what do you mean favors? Like, doing his laundry or cooking him dinner? Like, I didn't get like, oh, he means blowjobs. So watching that back when I was a little bit older, I'm like, now I get it. So eventually, it's Savage, Bad News. They have a couple of matches. Doesn't really go anywhere, unfortunately, because they turn Savage heel. But Hulk Hogan steps in and he's going to defend Elizabeth's honor against Bad News Brown, and that's what leads to this match here. And, not for nothing, if I was going to keep Randy Savage babyface, which you can make an argument that they could have at the time, it's not a good argument, but you can make an argument for it, that Bad News should have been the transition between Savage and Hogan. Because obviously you're going to put the belt back on Hogan. And if you don't want, Savage jobbing out to Hogan, you can put Bad News in between.
yeah, it's just weird. This whole, like I said, I'm having trouble watching this whole tape. It was from many years ago. But yeah, I'm not. Are you surprised that they never gave Bad News a title? He wasn't, especially in the WWF.
I'm not necessarily surprised because Bad News, unfortunately, did not like to do jobs. And if you have a belt, you're going to have to lose it at some point. And he was someone that he was a legitimate dude. And if he had to shoot, he would shoot. And it would be if he didn't want to drop the belt, he wasn't going to drop the belt.
Yeah,
This is a guy who didn't back down to Andre the Giant. So, Bad News is legit. Judo was in the Olympics. Like he is Bad News. My favorite incarnation of Bad News Brown was when he was in Stampede and they turned him babyface and he became Good News Brown, which is awesome. But it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, that is kind of ridiculous. I just don't really.
Actually, he was bad. He was Good News Allen because I don't know. They changed his name to Brown because WWF racist.
You think they did it because they just, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know if it was like a reference to Bobby Brown, perhaps. I don't know. So I don't know if this was a sign of the time. I don't know if it was Downtown Julie Brown. I don't know if it was Bobby Brown. I'm not necessarily sure, but in hindsight, looking at it at 2019 eyes, it seems kind of like, like, did you really need to change his name to Bad News Brown? Really?
No, I think if they did that nowadays, it would be people would think it would be a race thing. I'm just saying.
It doesn't necessarily have to mean that, but it's like, and then you look at the WWE's track record over over a period of time, you're like, not good.
No, it's definitely not good. But the next match we had, Hogan, Ted DiBiase, a lumberjack match. What were your thoughts on lumberjack matches?
They can be interesting if you have a good dynamic heel and faces on the outside, because they always end up in a brawl anyway. So those are always cool to see, depending on who's out there. But again, it depends. If you have a bunch of jobbers as lumberjacks, it's not any fun. So like when you have like, hey, SD Jones and Coco Beware is out there, it's like, Killer Bees are out there, well, at least sort of. And then on the other side, you have Dino Bravo, the Bolsheviks, and Greg Valentine. So it's like, not necessarily the pick of the litter here. So
no, what are your thoughts on DiBiase back in the old WWF days? He was when he was in Mid-South and Georgia and NWA, but it's like, I love Ted DiBiase. He's a great wrestler.
I love Ted DiBiase, but in 1989, he's rapidly approaching like the twilight of his career, and he got old really, really fast. And his work rate, he went from being one of the best, maybe top 3 workers in the world to like, maybe not so much anymore.
Yeah, he definitely went down. Next match on this.
Wait. We don't rush through this. I got to talk about the Killer Bees.
Okay, tell me about your favorite tag team.
Now, the Killer Bees are lumberjacks in this match. And I don't know what the fuck happened, but the Killer Bees turned heel in this match for no fucking apparent reason. And then you look at them, it's like, wait a minute, that's not the Killer Bees.
They had masks on, so.
Yeah, and then he removed the mask and there's another mask underneath it. But you look at him, it's like, that doesn't look like Jim Brunzell, and that's sure as fuck not Brian Blair. And I'm wondering if like this was a way to fucking bury them because they had just left the WWF. Actually, Brunzell was still around doing jobs and Blair was gone, but I don't know what they were thinking, doing this. It was really weird and something they never ever followed up on. So like this whole Killer Bee heel turn thing was just for the Spectrum for in March 12, 1988. Now the angle went nowhere. Oh, by the way, this tape was produced by Tony Schiavone.
That explains a lot. But I love Tony Schiavone.
You see a lot of Schiavone on this tape too.
Yeah, I could definitely see Tony's producing on this and putting together. But
his tapes, the 89 run of tapes are really good. The tapes he did are all really, really good.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Anything else you want to talk about for this the Hogan DiBiase lumberjack match? Any other interesting nuggets?
He beats him at 6:09. The announcers tried to make it seem like it was for the WWF title, but unfortunately, this match took place on March 12, 1988. So Hogan wouldn't win the belt until April of '89.
Yeah, so it was not for the belt. But next match, we had my favorite wrestler of all time, the Big Boss Man, taking on, of course, Hulk Hogan, since it is the Hulkamania 4 compilation Coliseum Home video exclusive VHS tape. So more Hogan. Yeah. That's all we need is more Hogan.
It's an entire tape of Hogan matches. Did you expect like, hey, we're gonna put Bruno Sammartino matches on this too?
No, but I just 2 hours of Hulk Hogan or however long the running of the show was, that they showed was just, oh my God, I like I said before,
we're gonna do the fucking Hillbilly Jim tape, all right, motherfucker, and you'll see what some shit is.
I would love to do the Hillbilly Jim show. We do have the all the shows assigned for the rest of the year, but we can change it up. Maybe do the old Hillbilly Jim a compilation. But speaking, of things that aren't crap, this tape, which was one of them. If someone wanted to, be like one of the cool kids and hear more of Alex G and stuff, and see and listen to his opinions of stuff not wrestling related, like video games and all that other stuff that 10-year-olds play, how would they get on your YouTube channel and how would they follow you on Facebook or on Twitter?
Well, my YouTube channel is rapidly evolving into a pop culture YouTube channel. Not only do we tackle professional wrestling, which is the majority of the content that we produce, In addition to that, we do talk Star Wars. We do talk Marvel Comics and the MCU. So we're doing stuff like that. So what you want to do, you go to Retro Wrestling Games Presents, and you just type it right in the search bar. And then what you're going to do, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to subscribe to it. And then you're going to hit the bell so you get notifications. Then you're going to watch a video. Then you're going to press the like button. And then after that, you're going to say a comment. Now, that comment could be anything like, hey, Alex G, you're awesome, or hey, you're a jerk. I haven't got too many of those jerk ones, though.
I mean, I guess any interaction is better than no interaction.
No, I'd rather take, like, if you want to, like, say my opinion's wrong on something, or I factually messed up, which happens from time to time. We're talking, right? We're talking here. And sometimes, we misspeak, or I remember something wrong. It happens from time to time. If you want to correct me, go right ahead. And I'll say, hey, you know what? Hey, bud, you're right on that. It's all good. Thank you.
Have you ever actually done that?
Yeah. Like, I think the biggest one I did was talking about Puerto Rico. And I had some factual errors on that one, and they corrected me. I was like, all right, man, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it to you. I've watched almost all your stuff, the wrestling related stuff. I'm not a big, other kind of gaming person, but wrestling related. Since we do a retro wrestling podcast, your stuff is great. I mean, it's probably some of the best produced and best looking content out there on YouTube. I mean,
I take a different approach to wrestling video games reviews now. To be, in all honesty, right, if you take a wrestling video game, like you take a game like Super WrestleMania for the Super Nintendo, you can probably knock out a review like in 9 minutes. If you want to bare bones it, you can probably get it done in 4. Because there's not a whole lot to talk about. You know what I mean? It's a bare bones, first effort by Acclaim on the Super Nintendo, right? It's just a wrestling game. There's no story modes, there's no creative wrestlers. There's not a whole lot to talk about. So what we do is that we have a auxiliary topic, a backup topic. So if we're talking about Super WrestleMania, came out in 1991, we'll talk about, WrestleMania 7 or SummerSlam 91, something from that time frame, something that's relevant to the game that we're talking about. The reason I do that because a lot of wrestling review shows out there, and there were some really good ones out there prior to me. Again, it would be like 4 minutes of gameplay. It'd be 10 minutes of gameplay. It wouldn't be a whole lot of gameplay footage. So you don't really get in my opinion, you don't really get a feel for what you're looking at, and with quick edits and what have you. I wanted to show a clean, like this is the gameplay. This is what it looks like. This is down and dirty. This is what it is. So my videos tend to go anywhere from 20, 25, 30 minutes. And 9 times out of 10, we got like 10 minutes of talking about the game and, another 10 minutes of talking about something else. So, again, that's a little bit different. Now, the NWA 1983 project is, a fantasy booking stimulator. And then we talk about, various topics. It would be, the year in review in 1984 or what the WWF expansion looked like or, hey, what's going on in AEW this week or what's going on in NWA this week. So we cover all our bases with the 1984 project, 1983 going into 1984 project. And the 1984 project is actually rapidly concluding soon. So because I feel that all series need to come, it has to have a logical finishing point.
Yeah, unlike this podcast, which will never have an end. So
well, podcasts are different than YouTube videos, my friend.
Yeah, you're correct.
You could do a podcast forever. YouTube videos, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, they definitely have to. And you're kind of also talking about stuff that's, that's new to the network, new to the show where, we reinvested the funds that we had for the record T-shirt sales that we've had the past month into getting advertisement on one of the number 1 rated podcast. They talk about current stuff. It's called the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. They are on the Jared Parsons Wrestling TV network. They have a video podcast. It's a video version of their audio podcast. It drops every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Their normal podcast drops at 6 a.m. on Thursdays. Just type in Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast in all your search, all your podcast players, and you'll find them. They're a great bunch of guys. They're local to my area, not to the Long Island area, but they're Georgia boys, and we bought some advertising on them. So click on the link at the bottom of the show notes after you listen to this, and just listen to them and subscribe. leave a comment. Please, only positive comments to them. I mean, you can leave negative comments for Alex G on his YouTube page.
Please.
Because, I don't really care. I mean, if that gets shut down, then you have more time for this. But, folks, just go over to tappedoutwrestlingpodcast.com. Has all their Patreon stuff, all their Jarrett Parsons Wrestling Network stuff. They're on every week on that. They're right next to the Bill Apter. He's also on the network, so they're right next to them, right next to him. So they're a great bunch of guys. But the next match,
not for nothing. I thought you told me you bought advertising at the Cheetah Club. So
actually, I did. And that's, we have grown, a lot since we got that advertising. So it's,
something's growing in my pants.
Whoa, hey, this is a no.
You know what I want to be when I was a kid. I was like, hey,
smart.
When they asked me like. Like guys kind of asked, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my response was strip club DJ.
How was that working out?
My wife let me do it.
God,
now coming up to the stage, Fantasia.
Oh God, yeah. You'd probably be a great one, and they do seem to have a lot of strip clubs up in the New York area. So
they do, but like they're full of Russian women. And not like the really nice, like, hey, I'm going to be a mail order bride Russian woman, like they kind of sneak over on like ships, like those kind of Russian women.
It's not like a Lana Russian. Oh, I'm sorry, she's not Russian. God,
gorgeous though.
Yeah, she is. But your thought, okay? So she's supposed to be Russian. They're doing this angle with him and with Lana and. What's his face? Bobby Lashley.
First of all, she needs to drop the Russian stuff.
I was watching the current product this past Monday because, today's Wednesday. So it's, kind of getting over that hump. And you're welcome for me, us pushing you over that hump. She did lose that, right? She has recently, like when she'll start out in the Russian accent. And then when she keeps on talking, it kind of goes away. It's just weird. Just lose a fucking.
I was losing.
And Rusev, man, he must have lost a lot of weight or is not on the gas anymore because he is.
Whoa.
What?
HGH, not gas. Come on.
Huh?
They test for steroids up there.
Yeah.
HGH.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you're trying to say that Sheldon Benjamin or Bobby Lashley are not on the old gas? They're not on the juice?
Not Sheldon. Maybe Bobby. But no, Bobby does MMA. They really don't. Oh, they don't really does that.
You know who doesn't look like in very good shape? It's probably is pretty good shape. That Cain Velasquez guy. So
he can do backflips and shit.
Yeah, and it's just that, and we won't talk about the current product because I know
he's a little doughy, but it's all right.
I know talking the current product, it makes you mad. So we're going to move on to something that hopefully won't make you mad. The Cobb County, Georgia cop, the big boss man taking on Hulk Hogan.
Again, this is another feud that we don't get to talk about.
In a cage.
It's not necessarily, indicative. There's no pay-per-view match for this, obviously. You know what I mean? So, but Hogan Boss Man was the premier feud for that time frame. Like, they drew a fucking shit ton of money. If you go back and look at the results for the house show business, they drew fucking everywhere. And fucking Boss Man, to his credit, fucking taking that bump off the top of the cage with the superplex is insane. Like, how good was Boss Man? Boss Man's like, what, 2 years in the business at this point?
Yeah.
3 years in the business, maybe? Jesus Christ, he's a fucking natural. And he was amazing. I prefer my Boss Man to be a little bit bigger. Like, slim down, babyface Boss Man is good, but, chubby, heel Boss Man is definitely the best. Like, he beats the shit out of Hogan in the Brother Love show. Like, he handcuffs him to the fucking guardrail and just fucking goes to town on his ass. Like, that was, like, Boss Man was, like, a legit guy. Like, hey, he could, Hogan's in trouble here, when I was, like, 8 years old. But, eventually becomes a Hogan's friend. So, what are you going to do here?
Yeah, did you like the Boss Man when he was Big Bubba Rogers, or did you like this incarnation of him?
I was a big Boss Man guy. Like, I saw Big Bubba, but I never put, like a lot of things, like, sometimes when guys came over from the NWA to the WWF, I didn't recognize them anymore.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like Terry Taylor, or like when Kurt Hennig came from, like, I knew who Kurt Hennig was. I'm like, oh wait, it took me like a minute to figure out. Again, I'm like fucking 7, 8, 9 years old. I'm like, oh, Mr. Perfect's Kurt Hennig. I get it now.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was back whenever
Because like obviously when Dusty came over, like oh it's fucking Dusty, right?
yeah.
And when Flair came over, it's fucking Flair. Like you get that, but some of these guys like, oh yeah, that's what's his name.
Yeah, I mean, this match was good. I mean, what were your thoughts on that? I mean,
it was good. It was good. It was a good match. I mean, this is probably a little bit better than the one on the Saturday main event, to be honest. But this is like a good fucking match, though. Like this is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great match. I mean, the next match that we'll talk about. This guy, I mean, he was the Intercontinental Champion, the Honky. He was the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, and he'll tell you that. The Honky Tonk Man taking on Hulk Hogan. I mean, were you ever surprised that he never got the World Wrestling Federation title? He was just Intercontinental Champion. I mean,
no, because he wasn't even supposed to get that.
Well, I mean, what? Okay, tell the listeners why he was not supposed to get that.
All right, the rumor. Well, there's a couple different things that happened. Number one, Ricky Steamboat wanted time off for the birth of his child, so he just recently won the IC belt from Savage. So it's like, all right, we're gonna have to take the belt off of Steamboat. Now, if Steamboat didn't request that time off, Honky Tonk Man wouldn't have gotten the belt. But the rumor out there, though, always was is that it was supposed to be Butch Reed that beat Steamboat, but Butch Reed no-showed the show, so they give it to Honky Tonk Man. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But that was always the rumor out there about why Honky got the belt. But fuck, he held it for fucking ever though.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to the Hacksaw, the Butch Reed. I mean, okay, we we're not kayfabing it. We know that wrestling is, it's a theater. It's making people believe things that are not believable. But if Butch Reed knew that he was going into this match against Ricky Steamboat, he was going to be the Intercontinental Champion at the end of the night. Did he ever? I mean, did we ever find out why he no-showed, or did you say, "Fuck it, I'm going to wrestle somewhere else"? I mean, that just seems like a terrible decision.
He probably wanted to go do drugs. I'm assuming.
You can't do those together. I mean, come on.
Well, here's the thing too. It was like Vince would not tell guys until like the day of the show too. You got those sheets out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be surprising that
he didn't know.
Tell Butch Reed that he was going to go over on Steamboat that night. Hell, Butch probably didn't even know he was wrestling Steamboat until he would have got to the building.
Yeah, I mean, it's hell. It could have been one of those things that he didn't even know till he was in the match.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, but it's. I mean, I am still a big fan of Butch Reed. I mean, he's a fucking powerhouse.
He was a sweetheart when I met him. Likes to wear the cowboy hat because he is a legitimate cowboy, and he's just fucking I probably would have put the NWA World Title on him at some point.
Instead they put it on. The first Black World Champion in WCW NWA was Ron Simmons. Do you think Butch Reed would have been?
It wasn't NWA. They already dropped the WCW.
Okay, so what do you think Butch Reed would have been a better champion than Ron Simmons?
I think it'd be different because Butch would have been a heel, for sure, and Ron at the time was a babyface, and there had been other Black World Champions before that. Just because someone's going to say, yes, we know about Bearcat Wright, so chill out. We know about Bobo Brazil. We know about these things, right? So we get it. But in terms of the modern era where it's on national television or what have you, Butch Reed being the first Black NWA World Heavyweight Champion would have had significance. It most likely could have revived perhaps St. Louis or Kansas City. Even that's kind of a stretch. He was a good worker all around, but again, he had, much like many of the wrestlers in the time frame, they all had some sort of drug problem. So, hey, this he's on the drugs. I don't know. Flair is super reliable. He doesn't miss a show. We'll keep it with Flair.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, kind of getting away from the show. Didn't that happen with Buddy Landell? He was the national champion. I think, one of the champions.
He was going to go into a program with Flair,
and then he no showed or was doing drugs or something. Yeah. And I mean, drugs definitely. I mean, I could understand it. I mean, like you said, Flair's not going to miss a booking. I mean, he's going to be there. Hogan's going to be there. I mean,
it's very other than he has to take his hiatuses for his movies.
Yeah.
But you didn't know he was gone anyway. There's times in 1988 where he's just not there. But if you watch TV, you wouldn't know because they taped all these fucking promos, and the TVs were shot like in 4-week blocks.
Yeah, I mean, now you would know it would be kind of like the Brock Lesnar syndrome,
Right.
where he shows up, he wins the title, doesn't wrestle for another 6 weeks, comes back for one show, and then he's gone for. It's like back then. I mean, like you said, I mean, it was kind of the current NWA project or the NWA show that they tape here in Atlanta. They tape like 5 weeks of shows. But
I love the fact that they do that.
But yeah, I mean, they used to do that at Center Stage. I mean, I remember going to Center Stage for WCW back in the mid '90s when they would tape blocks and blocks and weeks of shows. One show, same day, Steiners would be champions. Next taping, same day, the Harlem Heat would be
Well, the WCW used to fuck it up because they used to do shit out of order.
Yeah.
And the crowd would be confused. So you see like worldwide tapings, right? And the champions wouldn't have belts. Like they just stopped sending the champions out with belts so they can, redo those matches. They could put them in any order they want. So there's a time frame there where they didn't come out with any belts at all. Like none of the champions came out with their belts.
Yeah,
I love the fact that NWA is doing tape television because I'm a proponent of tape TV. I think live fucking wrestling TV is for the fucking birds.
Yeah.
And I think I explained this on another show. Like, there's 1,000 reasons why. But a lot of people will come back and be like, what about spoilers? I'm like, if your product is good, spoilers can only help you.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of spoilers, I mean, I'm not sure if people have been reading these spoilers about the NWA stuff since it is already taped. That what are your thoughts? And hopefully you know the news that the Rock and Roll Express, they're the current reigning NWA World Tag Team Champions because they won the belts from the former tag team champions of the National Wrestling Alliance at one of the TV tapings in Atlanta. I mean, do you think? I talked with a wrestling buddy of mine the other day, and he said they put that on there to make the NWA tag team titles kind of legitimate again because they've been irrelevant for so many years. Do you think that's true, that they just put them on there to probably make them relevant again?
I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is that the Rock and Roll can still go. Like, they were in fucking Japan. Like, I'm watching matches and Ricky Morton's throwing out fucking Canadian destroyers. Like, he's passing them out like fucking candy. Like, these guys, because it doesn't matter how old they are, they can still fucking go in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, they were wrestling in Georgia. Now this past week they've been in California. It's like they make towns. They're old but they don't care.
The R&R never stopped wrestling. They've been wrestling this whole time, straight through. Like, and that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Rock and Roll Express. I mean, that's why. I mean, they are probably one of the greatest tag teams. That wrestling has had. I mean, at their age, they could just retire and say, "Hey, we're not going to do it anymore."
They both have wrestling schools, and Ricky liked to party a lot. So I don't know like how his financial situation is, but when I met those guys at fucking WrestleCon, they gave me a bunch. Like they were trying to sell me everything, and I'm like, brother. You don't have to try so hard. Whatever you got, I'm buying. So
yeah,
let's go.
Yeah, no, they were probably trying to also sell you some drugs, but that's
no. I got a comic book. I got a picture. I got like 2 autographs from them. I was like, nope. Whatever you guys want to sell me, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're definitely a great.
They should be selling bananas. I don't know why they don't. But whatever.
I know you were a big fan of I know you're probably a member. Actually, probably not because you're too young. Of the Rock and Roll Express fan club. It was you got a life-size poster and you got a certificate that said, "Hey, blah blah blah." I'm like, that's just weird, but
I'm not going into a van with Ricky Morton unless he has drugs. So there you go.
I understand that. The next match, which they should be on drugs, Haku.
Haku.
Sorry, I'm an asshole. King Haku, who is actually still a member of the Bullet Club today, taking on Hulk Hogan. Yeah,
this was another. This is actually I believe this is the only. No, maybe not. This is a Coliseum Home Video exclusive. That means it was a dark match, probably a TV taping. So again, we got Shivani and Mooney, doing their thing, and I like Haku. And he had pretty good matches with Hogan, not for nothing. And because he has a good dynamic, because he does like this pseudo karate and stuff, and fucking Haku is a legitimate badass. He will fucking gouge your eyeball out and bite your nose off. So, but I always thought that Hogan and Haku, Ming, if you want to be a jerk about it, I thought they always had good chemistry. I wish they had done more with them.
Yeah, I mean, Haku Ming, whatever the hell you want to call him, he's still wrestling a little bit now. It's kind of like the Rock and Roll Express. He just keeps on keeping on. He's a great wrestler.
His kids, Gorillas of Destiny.
Yeah.
Tama Tonga is the good version of Roman Reigns.
I mean, anybody's better than Roman Reigns, but
oh, come on, that's not fair.
Okay, I'm sorry. Kendall Windham's not.
Don't be inflammatory. That's just not necessary.
Hey, I don't even know what that means because I'm never inflammatory. So, but
only in your pants.
Yes. But moving on, the next part of the show was not an anti-smoking commercial. No, it was a behind-the-scenes exclusive Coliseum Home video look at the award-winning, as they would call, No Holds Barred, which was kind of find out was taped here in Atlanta. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, because it introduced us to the fucking dumbass character Zeus,
or Z Gangster, if you want to be a jerk about it.
Yes. Wasn't his name like Tiny Lester or Tiny Lester?
Tiny Lester, yeah.
He's not very tiny, but I mean, what were your thoughts on this movie? I mean, yeah.
One day we're going to watch the movie because the movie is kind of predicts what happens with Hulk Hogan and WCW, sort of in a sort of kind of way, where the villain Brel is definitely supposed to be a Ted Turner like figure. Now you would say, hey Alex, Turner wasn't, he didn't buy WCW yet, but those rumors with Turner Sports or TNT or TBS were buying WCW long before they actually bought him. So this is kind of a shot here at Ted Turner, and the fact that it takes place in Atlanta makes it even more awesome. That Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon rewrote this entire script in a hotel room over a weekend, probably doing drugs.
Oh, I mean, I'm not.
It's very like there was literally lines from this movie that I could hear Vince fucking saying. Like the phrase "jockass," like that's such a Vince-ism that I can hear him saying. It's ridiculous.
What the hell's a jockass?
I don't know. I think it's supposed to be jackass, but since Hulk Hogan is ginormous in this film, he calls him a jockass because he's a jock, and it's like a total Vince thing, and like the masturbating joke, that's a Vince thing for sure. The dookie, that's a Vince thing for sure. Like you can tell that Vince wrote this movie.
Yeah, and well, that's probably. I think we do need to cover this. Watch this movie.
I love this film. I've watched it like 1,000 times. Like this is one of the things. Like I would rent 2 videotapes and No Holds Barred, and that would be my weekend.
I mean, you do live, a fast and amazing life. I mean, it's like the house, watching wrestling, and No Holds Barred. It's just, I mean, what could be any worse?
Is it the best Hogan movie? I mean, outside of Rocky 3.
I like. What was that one he was in a tutu? Was that Miss Suburban Commando or?
No, that was Mr. Nanny.
Oh, Mr. Nanny. That's what I meant to say.
Suburban Commando is actually a legit like film. It's like not like a shitty Hulk Hogan movie. Like it has Christopher Lloyd in it, for Christ's sake.
It's kind of like a Rock who he doesn't do WWE studio movies anymore. It's kind of like that. I mean,
yeah, like Hogan never got that like. He never got that fucking mainstream fucking film role that he wanted, that he coveted so much. Like he was never like, oh, we're gonna put him in Terminator, or we're gonna put him in, whatever film. Like, because the '90s were like we're getting out of like the action movie genre. You know what I mean? That's now been replaced by the comic book movie.
Yeah.
But like the '90s was kind of this weird time where like it was always like unassuming guys. So it was like, oh, look at Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, your Rambos and your Schwarzenegger movies, like those are falling by the wayside, very, very quickly. And if it was like 10 years earlier, like Hogan, they probably would have put him in a bunch of fucking like canon films, like where he's like fucking, has like 2 machine guns and he's fucking blowing everyone away. Unfortunately, the times have changed, and they ended up putting him in a lot of comedy movies. They ended up putting him, like he's in Gremlins 2, which actually comes out this year too, 1989, which is he's as Hulk Hogan. But like he's on like Assault from Devil's Island, which is like it's like a fucking B movie. He's in there with fucking Carl Weathers and Shannon Tweed. It's like, ugh. And I think he does one of the Spy Kid movies. It's like, ugh. It's like he never got any good roles. Thunder in Paradise, it's very much a 1980s concept brought into the 90s where like you have like this boat that's fucking amazing with machine guns on it and shit, very Knight Rider-esque, and it was a fun show. I'm trying to find it on DVD. If anyone has like the entire series of Thunder in Paradise, please let me know because I will purchase that from you.
Yeah, I mean, just tweet at us or tweet at Alex. But
yeah, for real, I will spend the money to get that.
Yeah, I mean,
and DVD quality.
Yeah, and speaking of quality, the main event of this Hulkamania 4 VHS Coliseum Home Video Exclusive, Hogan, Savage, and of course
Hogan
Savage
with Elizabeth.
Yes, sorry, with Miss Elizabeth, with versus Savage, Macho Man Savage, with Zeus
and Sherry.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Zeus. I mean,
he couldn't work, but like, look at him. Like, what do you like? Okay, this guy like stumbles like into your fucking promotion. Like, what do you do with him? Like, you have him. Like, he's main event or bust. Like, you're not gonna put him on second or third matches with Coco Beware. Like, he's main event or bust. So you're gonna try to get what you can get out of him. They tried to work with him. Savage tried to work with them. They did the best they could with him. And he actually has a match outside of WWF with Abdul the Butcher in Puerto Rico, which is a fucking shit show, but it's fucking awesome. But he's like, what do you do with this guy? Like, you're going to cross promote. Like, I get the concept of what they were trying to do. They're going to cross promote the movie, and they're going to have these matches. And they had like no holds barred when it debuted on pay per view. You had the match in the movie, and they figured out pretty quickly that Zeus, not Hulk Hogan was going to be unable to carry Zeus through a singles match at WrestleMania 6, so they scrapped that plan and went with the Warrior plan instead. So, what are you gonna do? Like, he can do like 3 moves, and he can do one slam, the fucking break your neck fucking twist thing, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean,
my favorite Zeus story is when he does a promo and he calls Brutus Beefcake Barber, which was awesome.
Yeah, he should never have talked. But I mean, overall, what were your thoughts on this compilation of Hulkamania? I mean,
it's a fun tape. I mean, it's like, you're gonna watch a Hulk Hogan tape and expect fucking like work rate quality. This is Hulk Hogan 1989. You're gonna watch it for shenanigans and tomfoolery. Like, it has some good matches on here. Like, the Haku match is good. Savage and Hogan's always gonna be good. Bossman and Hogan's gonna be good. The DiBiase lumberjack match, Bad News Brown, honky, but 3 out of 6 ain't too fucking bad in terms of good matches.
No,
it goes back to my point. Is like, we never got to see a whole lot of Hogan matches.
Yeah,
like, we saw him on pay-per-view, we saw him on Saturday's Main Event, and we saw promos, and then we saw him live in your town if you went to the shows. But like, you tell me I can get a whole tape of fucking Hulk Hogan? I'm fucking doubling down on that one, my friend.
Yeah, no, I mean, speaking of stuff that we're doubling down on, next week on episode 61, we're going to be talking about WrestleFest 1988.
Yeah, it's very much similar to the big event that we covered not too long ago. Again, this was a Coliseum home video exclusive. This is from, I believe, Brewer Stadium or whatever they call it in Milwaukee. It has a couple of like really like interesting matches on it. It has Hogan Andre in the cage. It has DiBiase and Savage for the belts. It has Bad News Brown taking on Bret Hart, which is, there's a lot of interesting things to talk about there. You had Ultimate Warrior and Bobby Heenan in a Weasel Suit match. You had Rick Rude and Jake Roberts. So you had a lot of interesting things on this show. Demolition versus the British Bulldogs, which, like, on paper, this show sounds sick. Now, it doesn't deliver, unfortunately, but on paper, this so fucking looks fucking sick as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good show. I mean, I'm a big Powers of Pain fan. They were on it versus the Bolsheviks, which I'm not a fan of.
Because they got a hell of a reaction on that show?
Yeah.
You think the fans just thought it was Road Warriors?
Probably. To be honest with you, they probably did, which probably helped people saying, hey, let's cheer for them, even though they weren't the Road Warriors.
I mean, they brought them in as baby faces, which is weird. Like, that show takes place like a couple weeks after they quit, so they're very much fresh off of fucking Crockett TV.
That's kind of funny. But for the great Alex G, as always, I'm David Fine. We will see you back here next week where we talk all things WrestleFest 1988. And as always, We'll talk to you in the past.
38 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis,
Here comes Mr. Crow. Mr.
Andre the
Crow
Giant.
Gonna get his licks in on the bruiser.
Hulk Hogan.
Number 1, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
His opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.